Well, there we go. All right. Well, welcome everyone to Walking in Their Shoes, Understanding the Impacts of Trauma. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Linda Remsburg of Grow and Lead. This is the fourth and final webinar in a series in collaboration with Great Lakes Recovery Centers. It's also the final event in our Building Up Nonprofit Employees program, which has also included Mindful Mondays and Self-Care Try It sessions. We thank Michigan Health Endowment Fund for their financial support in providing the program. We also thank Great Lakes Recovery Centers for sharing their professional expertise in the webinars. And we thank all our partners throughout the UP that are presented in the program. Their depth of knowledge, their insight, and their willingness to share has helped lift the mental wellness of the UP nonprofit community, and we are so very grateful to them. Today's webinar is being recorded, as you heard, and will be available on Grow and Lead's YouTube page, as are the previous webinars that were on the topics of burnout, grief, and anxiety and depression. So if you missed those, you're still able to watch them on YouTube. And we will send that link to everyone who is registered for today's webinar. Today's session will include discussion, so you can feel free to unmute yourself when you want to speak. And then when you're done, just please mute yourself again. And feel free also to use the chat at the bottom of your screen. That's a good place to post resources you might want to share, or to submit questions for our presenters. But I think it's going to be pretty informal today, so you can also just feel free to mute yourself and speak. And now I would like to introduce our friends from Great Lakes Recovery Centers. Amy Poyer is the Community Relations and Marketing Director. Amy will help monitor the Q&A, or excuse me, the chat, and help troubleshoot technical issues if necessary. And our presenters are Donna Burns and Jennifer Santer. And Donna is a foster parent program supervisor. She has over 20 years of fostering experience and has welcomed more than 100 children to her home. Taking trauma-informed care from learning it to living it has helped her be more successful in fostering and adopting children who have experienced trauma. She was a master trainer and implementation coordinator for the Wisconsin Trauma Project and a Fostering Futures trauma coach. Jennifer Santer is the Senior Director for Central Operations at Great Lakes Recovery. Throughout her social work career, she's worked in the areas of homeless services, child welfare, addiction, and behavioral health. At Great Lakes Recovery, she has provided administrative oversight for the Children's Trauma Assessment Team and has also served on the team as behavioral health specialist. So welcome, Donna and Jen. Thanks so much for being here with us. I am going to allow you to share your screen, or I think you actually probably can, and I will let you take it from here.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. As Linda said, we really want today to be interactive in a discussion. So we think we can learn from each other today. So we're going to start by, we want to begin to consider what things have shaped our lives and how these events continue to impact our thoughts, our feelings, our attitudes, and our actions. And then we want to look at how we intersect and our experiences intersect with others and their experiences. And today we know we all work with people. You know, some of us are mostly working with clients, others work with community organizations, and others will maybe be working with their coworkers. While a lot of our examples today are about clients we serve, we know that we can apply this discussion to anyone and everyone that we work with. You know, we call the work that we're doing and the discussion we're having today about trauma-informed care. However, it's just really much broader than that. It's not only in a social work setting, but it's just how we interact and talk with people on an everyday basis. And so, you know, it's kind of that changing of that question from what's wrong with you to what has happened to you. So we want to explore some of that today. So the first thing I want us all to do is just either in your head or if you have some paper, just to write down some of the major events of your life. You know, we have a little timeline here so just take a few minutes and think about what are some of the things that has really defined your life. And we'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Well, hopefully you've had time to get down some of the major events of your life and something else you can continue to work on later. But look at through all those events that you wrote down, and what is the event that you think out of all those things that impacted your life the most? Okay. And then once you have that, if you could write in the chat, what age were you when that happened? Oops. So it looks like we have a lot of different ages all the way, you know, some teens, some young adults, little kids, 3 to 5, that transition. Yep. And if you were older, you know, the other thing to think about is, was that kind of a standalone event, or did that event also relate back to something that happened when you were even younger? So these events and experiences shape who we are. And sometimes I think we recognize that, but sometimes I don't even think we realize what things shape us. So Donna.
Okay. So take me to the next slide. We all know that we learn by experience. And by learning by experience, I want you to think about, if you will, envision, you have to now this time of year, a beautiful sunny day, and it is warm, and you're out for a walk, and it's late spring. The snow has almost melted. It is melted, it's gone. And we are walking down a path, and then all of a sudden in front of you, you see this gigantic snake. This is why I'd like for you to take yourself off of mute and share with me, what are some of the emotions that you guys are feeling at this point in time?
I can't look at that picture.
Yeah, look at that picture. Not doing it, right? Not having it. Okay, anyone else?
I would say, hey, look at that cool snake.
You be the one making friends. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would probably just trudge forward.
You would just trudge forward and just say, okay, just going to go in a different direction, right?
I'd probably go in the direction of danger.
In the direction of danger. You know, I see the snake and I'm immediately saying, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm taking off quickly in another direction. So if you can fast forward me to the next slide, Jen, that'd be great. So all of a sudden, you know, here I am. It is 6-7 months later. I am out having another walk and I'm going down that path, and right around that same area, that I experienced that snake last time, I see something up ahead. Immediately, my head is telling me it's the snake again. Now, logically, I know that the snake hasn't been hanging around there waiting for me for all these months to return just to scare me once again, but there it is. But I venture closer this time and I realize that no, what it is instead is going to be that hose that is sitting there. But, you know, I finally relaxed and I realized, okay, whew, I can breathe. It is not that of the snake. You take me to the next slide, Jen. So through that experience that I have, I know that I am very, very fearful of snakes. So I start to think about, what are some of the beliefs that I may have about myself? What are some of the beliefs that I may have grown up having, maybe received from some of the caregivers, my parents? And how has this impacted my belief in the world? And that's known as my invisible suitcase. Are all the experiences that I have had throughout my entire life that is all shoved into this little suitcase. And so when we start talking about the suitcase, I'm going to mention that in the suitcase, there was a lot of things. For example, the snake story. I started thinking, why am I afraid of a snake? I've never had a negative experience with a snake. So where did this fear come from? And through my discoveries, I found that that was a belief that was tucked and packed in my suitcase by my mom, who is very fearful of snakes because of an experience that she had. And through her experience, she transferred it to me. So as I'm going through the suitcase, and I started thinking about as I was working with the children in our home, whom we truly believed, you know, it was helpful for them to understand that beliefs that they have about the caregivers, the world, and a lot about themselves were beliefs with the experiences that they themselves had had. And we started discovering that a lot that was stuffed in their suitcase, they had no clue or idea was even there because they never packed it. And could you imagine going on an extended trip where you were going to be gone for several weeks at a time and letting someone else just go and pack your suitcase? I don't think any of us would say, sure, I feel confident, I would let somebody else do that. But when it comes to our life suitcase, that is really what has happened. What I found was that with the parents, some of the parents I was working with, some of the children I was working with, I was finding that I was having emotions that could get triggered at any moment. And I couldn't understand where were my emotions coming from. I was helping the kiddos and their families unpack their suitcase, and then started thinking about the fact that I never stopped to take that time to really look at my own suitcase and what's in there. So as I started going through there, I realized, okay, we got that snake issue. I also found out that another issue that I had in my suitcase had to do with the sound. And I am one that I prefer to drink or have people drink soft drinks out of bottles with a twist cap versus a can with a pop sound coming off of popping that top of the can. Why? Because that was related back to an experience that I had when I was younger, where that can opened and I knew it was an alcoholic beverage that was going to be consumed, that, you know what? It probably doesn't impact whatever we had planned for that day. So small things in life that we have experienced, we store and we have here in the suitcase. So with that in mind, we are going to take you right into a case vignette. And what we would like for you to do is for you to think about, as we're going through this case vignette, thinking about, I wonder what was packed in this individual suitcase. How is this impacting the behaviors that we're seeing? Where is this coming from? And also at the same time, as I'm reading this case vignette, is to start to think about how some of your past experiences are influencing what you're feeling. So who I have on the screen right here for us is Candy. And Candy is 31 years old. Candy is single and is currently living with her boyfriend, JT. Candy grew up shifting back and forth between relatives and foster care since she was 5 years old. She is the second of 5 children. Candy is involved in her church. Candy is articulate. She can express her feelings openly when she feels comfortable. When upset or disappointed, she can become quiet and withdrawn. However, when encouraged to talk about her feelings, she is likely to open up. She is very sensitive and she will cry when she's frustrated or upset. When angered, she becomes emotionally charged, verbally and physically. Candy is a fairly typical young woman. She enjoys spending time with friends on the phone and in person. She loves to laugh and joke. She has an easy smile. She is intelligent. She is perceptive about the moods and needs of those around her. She is closest to her youngest sister, Brandy. She has been spending a great deal of time in her sister Brandy's home. She appears to feel a greater sense of belonging there. She gets along well with Brandy's live-in boyfriend and Brandy's two children, Jaslyn, 13, and Marcus, 15. Candy has the ability to attach to others in a very positive manner. She seems quiet at first until she gets to know someone. Candy has always been eager to become a mother. However, JT doesn't want any children to interfere in his life. JT has told Candy that if she got pregnant, he would leave her. Jaslyn and Marcus kiddingly call Candy mom at times, saying, "We wish you were our mom. We have so much fun with you." So the background and history for Candy. Candy's birth parents could not care for her and her siblings because of drug abuse and repeated incarcerations. At the time of Candy's birth, it was reported that her mother used crack cocaine during the entire pregnancy. Candy's mother had left the children with a neighbor and failed to return. For almost 2 years, Candy and her siblings lived with an uncle. It became difficult for him to care for them financially, and within 1 year of their leaving, he died. Candy was in a temporary placement for about 5 months until an aunt came forward. She lived with this aunt whom she developed a close relationship with for about 5 years until her death from cancer. The birth father had been released from prison around that time, and he took the children to live with him and his mother for about 3 months. The grandmother had also just been released from prison. A few months later, the grandmother took the children to Human Services, saying she could no longer care for them. Candy and 2 siblings were placed in a home of a couple from their church. 2 other children were placed in the custody of their parental cousin. After about 5 years of repeated attempts at reunification, both parents were terminated. Candy aged out of foster care, and 3 of her siblings were adopted by families. Her evaluation and assessment: there are concerns about Candy's ability to manage her anger. When she gets upset or provoked, she has a difficult time walking away from the situation. She has made some progress in this area over the past, but she finds it challenging to walk away from conflict. She has been diagnosed with bipolar. Candy has been involved in fighting 4 times last year. Some of these incidents occurred while she was defending others. A recent incident at work occurred when Kathy, a female coworker, said, "I wish someone would come and take my useless children because my life would be so much easier without them." Anger enraged Candy, and she was tried to be held back by coworkers. The coworker said that if they wouldn't have pulled Candy off the coworker, she probably would have killed her. The police were called and Candy was arrested. Candy was also notified by her employer that she was terminated. She feels that she needs a new start in life, a different job, a different boyfriend, a different house, a different city, and that would help her to manage her problems. Candy has attended classes for anger management and doesn't feel that they work for her. So Jen, we're going to take you, pass it over to you.
Yep.
Yep.
So as you if you heard that story and you've kind of already been thinking about what's in your suitcase, what do you think are some things that might be in Candy's suitcase?
Abandonment.
Abandonment. Yeah.
She has an overflowing suitcase, for sure.
People are also posting attachment disorder.
Yep. Yeah. What are some other things? Yeah, I think the overflowing is, there's a lot of different, we all have overflowing suitcases. We all have a lot of different things that are in our lives. And I think we heard alcohol and addiction. What else did some of you hear? A desire to be a mother and not being able to have kids.
Issues with her boyfriend.
Yep. Yep.
Trust issues as well as not feeling worthy. Somebody posted.
Depression. Yeah, I think we heard some anger. So.
And I
So-
started thinking too,
Yeah.
Jen, I started wondering too, where they said that she's really perceptive and noticing mood changes in individuals or being able to read their emotions. And I'm wondering if that isn't connected to things that she's experienced in her past also.
Yeah, because that, you know, that's the next question. You know, we kind of put what's all in there. And, you know, sometimes we can do kind of, we are putting a lot of negative things in there, but you know, there's also, all of our clients have strengths. So I remember I made some of my staff one day go through their clients and figure out what their strengths were. I told them to pick the hardest client to find their strengths. And I know they really struggled with that, but there was like one lady who they were always so mad because she knew she could come once a year to get services and she was always there on the same day. But if you turn that around, it's like she had great time management. She knew exactly when she was eligible and she also knew how to get through for the year. So what are some of the strengths that we, you know, Donna started mentioning some, what are some more of the strengths that we might see in Candy?
She survived a childhood of a lot of moving around and a lot of deaths of people who were close to her.
Yeah. Yep, in and out of different homes and doing. And I think that's where you see some of the strengths, you know, some of those things can be a real struggle but she came out, you know, stronger for some of those things.
And I see that relationship that she's built too with her niece and nephew, that she's still
Yeah.
able to reach out and have these type of relationships. Mhm.
Yeah. And someone in the chat said that she's able to share her feelings. Ability to love others. Very empathetic and wants to help others. So, a lot of good things. So now, what do you think are some of the things that probably keep Candy up at night? Maybe that are things that she worries about or.
Wanting to have a child.
Finding security from the chat. Acceptance. Yep. I think a lot of the basic things we're all looking for and all want. So. Anything else that people see that might keep Candy up at night? A recent job loss, money. Yep.
Mhm.
Fear of abandonment. Yep. Uncertain future. Great. Yep. Lots of things that are going to keep her up. So, and then kind of looking at it from a different perspective, how do you think Candy would best connect with others? Or how does she connect with others? sharing her time with the family in person. Yes. Seemed like doting on the kids and being the mother to them.
And again, showing how resilient she is, right? That she's
Yep.
able to fill that bit of that void right there. Mhm.
Yeah. Trying to be helpful and protecting others. Yeah, even in the anger, you know, what we see probably is the anger outside, and it did cause her to lose her job and everything, but you could see underneath that she was like thinking she was protecting those kids, that their mother was not thinking there. Anything else? Those are all great things.
Mhm.
So Donna, do we want to do the second vignette?
Yes, absolutely. We'll do the second vignette. So this one, I do not have a picture of Sam to put up, but Sam is a 35-year-old male who recently moved back in with his parents. During his first therapy appointment, it took Sam 35 minutes to get from the front door of the facility to the therapist's door, which is about a total of 25 feet. Sam was a highly successful marketing executive who leads a very active lifestyle. Recently, while on his way into work, he saw a woman get hit and killed by a drunk driver. This was an image that he will never forget. It has been impossible for Sam to return to work without seeing the accident play over and over and over in his mind. So Sam decided to quit his job. So a little bit of a background and history on Sam. Sam was raised as an only child. His parents were extremely loving, caring, and protective of Sam. While growing up, his parents encouraged Sam to do well in school, yet they didn't allow Sam to participate in sports, stating that sports could be quite dangerous. Sam was extremely popular as a child. He was often invited for overnights at friends' homes, and Sam would decline the offer and sleep in his own room. At home, Sam slept with a nightlight and music. He didn't like it when his home was quiet. It made him feel anxious. Often, when he had the feeling of anxiousness, he would pick at his clothing or skin until he bled, and then would rock his body back and forth repeatedly. He hated the feeling of being anxious and was often unable to sit still or to attend to a task. Other times, he was lethargic and preferred to just lie around. Sam had a need to touch specific items in a particular order repeatedly. Sometimes this compulsivity extended into his eating habits. In high school, Sam was crowned prom king and voted the class member most likely to succeed in life. He excelled in college and received competing job offers before his graduation. Sam's parents are extremely proud of Sam and wonder how their daughter would have turned out. She was older than Sam by 3 years. When Sam was 2 years old, his sister was killed in a car accident in front of the home. Sam had been put down for a nap, and his older sister went out to play. A car traveling at excessive speed lost control and killed his sister while she was playing in the front lawn. Sam's parents still have not emotionally recovered from the loss of their daughter. The one thing that they are thankful for is the fact that Sam was too young to remember the tragedy that occurred. So evaluation and assessment. Normally an outgoing, fun-loving guy, Sam has become increasingly withdrawn, jumpy, and irritable. He stopped working out, going out on dates, playing his guitar, or hanging out with his friends. All the things he once really enjoyed. His parents worry about how detached and emotionally flat he's become. He lacks motivation to look for new employment, and he has been given the diagnosis of depression and OCD.
Okay. So now we have a different scenario with a different person and Sam. And so as you think about what's in Sam's suitcase, what are some of the things that you see in his suitcase?
Trauma of losing his sister at a very young age.
Yeah.
and recent trauma of seeing someone killed in a similar manner.
Yeah, so we have fear and death of sister again in the chat.
And OCD can be debilitating in and of itself.
Yeah. So, depression, OCD, anxiety.
Possibly suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
Isolating.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point, Christine, that he seems to have been able to manage the symptoms for years without intervention. So a lot of strength.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very successful.
It's probably a perfectionist.
Mhm.
He had loving parents, but perhaps overprotective.
Yep. Generational trauma from the parents. Yep.
Mhm.
They experience the trauma of their own traumas, the trauma of their daughter, losing their daughter, and how that continues to affect. I liked how you pointed that out, Donna, that the fear of the snake came from your mom. And, so it's not even only our experiences within ourselves, but that experiences that we have from our families and others that we interact with. So what are some of Sam's strengths?
He managed his OCD,
Mm.
depression for years.
And there is that love of music that existed, that's there, that he's not
Mm.
using, but we know that's there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He had been
Mhm.
successful in his career.
Yep. Very successful. Intelligent. Yes.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about just being able to keep going, even though it talked about how it was so hard to get for him to get into the building, that he did make it. And like we said, he was able to, work through a lot of things for many years without too much intervention. So, what are some of the things that keep Sam up at night? Seems like some fear of harm, anxiety. Yep.
Probably images from the accident.
Mm. Yeah, seeing the woman hit by the car.
And I'm sure he feels like he's losing control of himself too,
Yeah.
what's going on? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Being very successful, being that perfectionist and then suddenly not being able to do everything and manage everything can be very traumatic.
Mhm.
And compulsions might be probably are keeping him up.
Yeah. So how do we see ways that Sam connects with others?
He must be, fairly personable. It says that he was popular as a child and successful in his job, and he's well liked.
Playing
He was
his guitar.
trying. Yeah.
And it said something about he uses humor, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then Megan pointed out his playing his guitar and his music. So,
Mhm.
So as we kind of think about learning some things about Sam and Candy, how does that information change how you maybe view the client?
And if Jen, if I could, for example, you know,
Yeah.
as I was working with families, you know, and to me, my suitcase and when I was raised that, you know, my mom was a homemaker and it was important for her that every night we had a full meal and we all sat at a table and we all ate dinner together. I mean, that was just what we did in our home. So going into my own home and having my own children, I really felt that what was really important was to make sure that I cooked those full meals, complete meals, and that every night we had dinner together at that table. But there were other parents who felt, I'm not going to spend all that time, because that's not an ideal parent. A parent would be one that doesn't spend all that time in the kitchen cooking, but one who can make a very simple meal and spend the rest of the time playing with the children would make a better parent, because that's what an ideal parent was like. And I think that as I was going through this and started thinking about what my beliefs were about what made a wonderful, caring, loving parent was different than that of what others, because of the experiences that they have had. And I think if anything, for me, it really opened up my eyes to say, there's a number of different ways. And I think it was a way of going in and being able to connect with others and beginning to say, there are things here that I can learn from them, not be judgmental, and found that it was a great experience.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that.
And I think sometimes, you know, today we kind of had the luxury in those cases of understanding the backstory of the clients, but a lot of times we don't necessarily get that backstory, or it takes a while to get the backstory. And so a lot of times we're just kind of looking at the outside of, you know, somebody coming into our office or organization. And, you know, that's where it's a lot easier to be able to just start thinking, why would you do things like this or everything, and just having to really watch ourselves that, you know, it's like taking that time to wonder about what is that backstory, you know, what might have happened in your life, good or bad, you know, all those things shape who we are. And like I said, sometimes we understand how they shape us and sometimes we don't understand how they shape us. And so being able to begin to understand where things are, because sometimes once we have, you know, I think, you know, if Candy or Sam presented themselves in the office, then, you know, I might think one thing about them, but, you know, suddenly you have that time or being able to unpack it. But, you know, it's also about understanding who we are. And like Donna's story of, some people think a mother makes the big meals and others think the mother makes the small meals and others still think dad makes the meals, or, you know, they have to fend for themselves. And, you know, those are our foundational experiences, and they can really affect and make us we can get so into our way of thinking and not being able to see somebody else's worldview. So I think that's so important that we can begin to look at other people's worldviews. And we were talking about cultural diversity the other day, but when it gets right down to it, it's really a culture of one, even though we might say we come from the same cultures, we don't always. And even then we have so many things that shape us, that shape our own culture and who we are. And so we really have to always, even if we think we know the coworker next to us, or we know that organization that we've worked with, or the neighbor down the street, you know, there's something in their culture that's different. There's something in their worldview that's different. And sometimes we just stumble on those things and we don't understand them, or they don't understand us. And it's really being able to help ourselves take some time to take those steps back and think about, you know, okay, what might have you experienced? And even being able to ask those things and learn those things from people. And, you know, especially if a client's coming in, maybe we see that they're getting kind of triggered, and it's like, oh, well, let's look at that and see what's happening. So. Is there a comment in the, I can't see the comments anymore.
Yes, being completely non-judgmental. Hang on a second, I just had it. Non-judgmental and learning to truly listen.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we say those things all the time, but they're really pretty kind of difficult to do sometimes, to really be able to step ourselves back or to listen. And we talk about how often do we listen just to respond to somebody, but really take the time to sit and listen to one of our client or coworker or who, you know, our colleague. So what are some of the things, you know, as we kind of begin to think about this, we wanted to try and think of some ideas that we can all do to come up with a plan of things that we would like to change and how maybe we approach our clients or our colleagues or our organizations, other organizations that we work with. How do we approach community in different ways? Are there things that, you know, you would like to, you know, that each of us would like to do differently?
Somebody posted to believe in their good intent.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know sometimes we can be quick to rush. Well, like again, talking about being a parent, a father or mother. Well, a mother or father wouldn't do that or be like that. Or, you know, I think we had a lot of vignettes, but, you know, I think there was another one where the lady was just constantly on her phone. And, you know, everybody was like, oh, she doesn't care about her daughter. She doesn't care about, you know, the situation. But it turned out that the mother was very frustrated because she wasn't being told about the care for her daughter and wasn't really understanding some of the things that her daughter had disclosed during treatment that she didn't know about, but that it also affected her because it came back into her trauma. And so she just kind of backed out because she didn't feel like she was being heard.
Somebody also posted, check in on my bias and be mindful of those during interactions.
Yep. Yep. We definitely, you know, those are very important because we all have biases. And again, some of them we're very aware of and some of them we're not so aware of. And to really be able to take the time to stop and think. And maybe if we've had you know, what seemed like a challenging interaction with somebody, you know, at the end of it, to process it either with ourselves or to process it with one of our colleagues and kind of think through, you know, maybe what caused some of those things to happen. And we can even ask you know, talk to our clients in certain situations, you know, or maybe they're coming back the next time, hey, I felt this, you know, is that right or is that wrong? And, you know, kind of you know, what are your feelings about the situation?
And I think what really helped me too, and I was especially with the kiddos that we had in our home, is that so often I felt like I was doing so much for them, but in response from them, I was taking a lot of blame and of things that have happened to them in their past. And I think being able to just keep telling myself it's not about me, and just taking a breath helped me so that I was able to disconnect and be there for them, because so often, sometimes the response that we receive, we do take it quite personally. And it does cause us to go on that defensive side. And really what they need is just someone to just kind of sit alongside of them. And so to me, it was a great experience being able to work with, especially the children, and understanding what they had in their suitcases. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, Donna, about not taking things personally, because, you know, sometimes that's so easy to do, or not, you know, understanding that even though they may be coming at us, that there's something else that is affecting them. And so being able to really try and get down to what's the root cause of this, instead of just jumping to our own conclusions about what's going on.
So I have a daughter right now who we adopted, who is really struggling in a relationship. And so her conversations to me have been, she is one that when at nighttime, she could never ever sleep. She would get up multiple times per night and she would raid my refrigerator and my freezers to the point that she would actually get physically sick because she would eat so much and not sleep all night. And so we were told to put a door alarm on her room. So whenever she came out, we would be able to greet her. And that way she wouldn't get all this food. But her past was in her life, she never had enough food. So when she felt uncomfortable, that's what she would do, is she would just gorge herself. So after attending a trauma care training, I said, maybe instead of sending her to bed at night, we're going to send her to bed with, instead of a teddy bear, we're going to send her to bed with a peanut butter sandwich. So we did this when she was 8 years old. And so she would take the peanut butter sandwich to bed with her, and she wouldn't have the need to get out of bed anymore at night because it was always there what she needed. She's now 22 years old, and she and I were talking the other day, and she's struggling in a relationship she's in. And I said, all right, so what do you think is going on? How is this connected with your invisible suitcase? Having that same vocabulary that we could just sit and just talk. She said, I think a lot of this is going back to what I experienced as a kiddo, and I'm afraid of losing him, and I'm afraid to make a commitment to the relationship. And we were talking, and then she said, maybe Mom, what I need is just to make myself a peanut butter sandwich again. So it's interesting how you can go, and I love it because I feel like what she has now is equipped with the ability to really go in and really think about how things that are happening now in her adult world are affecting her because of what she experienced as a child. And she's able to start working her way through and talking through it. Yeah.
So have others of you had experiences or some other things that you would think we would like to put in our plans? So as we keep thinking about that, one of the other things we want to think about is that the difference between like equality and equity, that trauma-informed care doesn't give each person the same thing. It gives the person what they need. And so I have a daughter who's 26, but is 4 or 5. And so I really relate to the equity thing because she can never see over anything. But, she, with her disabilities and stuff too, we run into that in the world that, we sometimes try and make it across the board what a person with a disability needs, but there's so many different disabilities with so many different levels of need and ability that, sometimes we end up limiting things when we say they can only do, everything has to be the same way for everybody. And so we really, that's another thing to, again, remind ourselves that we're dealing with individual people, and sometimes we can have so many people running through our offices and see so many people that sometimes maybe they can even start blurring together for us, but being able to take that step back and really think about who this person is, what their invisible suitcase might hold, what are the things that they are really needing and wanting. And instead of, and trying to get away from maybe a cookie cutter solution, but to be able to really involve them and what do they want and what do they need. And I was at a conference recently, and it was like talking about where we are now and then where we want to go in the future. And one of the things that really struck me is they kept talking about, when we think about the future, we're always doing the buts and we can't do this and the whys. And so we go back and forth, but, just to think of and help our clients think of the abundant future and what it could really look like. And then to be able to work with them to, whether it's overcoming some of the trauma or being able to use those life experiences in a different way to get to the place they want to be, and helping them not to give up and to move forward with everything. So does anybody have any thoughts or questions?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both, Donna and Jennifer, that, it's a lot to think about, a lot to consider, a lot of self-reflection in this, in how we, how we think about others and how we react to them too. So thank you both very much. It was great information and a good reminder to check our own biases and just think about things. So I'm not seeing anything more in the chat. Any questions? So I think we're probably good to go. I'm going to stop the recording. But again, thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll give everybody about 5 minutes back in their day. So thanks again. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.